Okay, so today I'm going to quickly show you how to use the US Postal Service Every Door Direct Mail and then how to automate the steps for looking up a route. So I'll just go through it manually, then I'll show you my code, walk you through the different locators, and then run it to demonstrate how it works. First thing we do is we want to search for an address. You can search for a city, state, a specific address, or a zip code. So I'm going to start by just searching for a city. So I'm going to search for Orange, California. You can see it pops up here with a list of zip codes. You select one or more zip codes from the list, and you can click continue. Takes a minute to process. It's looking up addresses in these zip codes. It shows you a map. You can zoom in or out on that map. But what do you just want to check the table? And we want to select the different routes that are available. I'm going to just select the first route and click on continue. And then it has you sign into your account. I don't have an account to sign in yet. But that's all we need to do for now. So let's go ahead and look at my code and see how we do this. Again, we're going to the USPS route search page. We're opening it up in the browser. We're just getting the title for a sanity check. And here in my code, I've got a few pause statements. These are just things I put in so that when it executes, you'll be able to see it because it'll move a little faster without those. So it's just pausing for a second between each step. Anyway, so we do send keys in the address search field. This actually isn't using my page object pattern, but the other steps are. This is just showing you a little bit more specifically on the route search page. And then we click the search button, as I just did. Actually, I hit enter. And then from the pop-up, you show the zip code from the list, or you select a zip code from the list. And then when you're done, you click zip code select. You wait for that map to search. It shows in progress. And then when it's gone, you go ahead and select the routes by clicking on that show table button. And then you see your order summary. You click continue, and it takes you to the login page in order to pay or do whatever you need to do. So let's take a quick look here at our page object. So this is the page object pattern in Selenium. It extends a basic page object. So you can see here, I've got a class called page object. This is a really basic base class. All it does is it takes care of initializing and tearing down, or actually just initializing my WebDriver. So it passes in a WebDriver object and a base URL, assigns it to a local instance of WebDriver. So this is dependency injection. And then it also specifies the URL for the page and just sets that. It then can either one of these optionally implicitly wait up to 60 seconds or have an explicit wait here for 30 seconds. And then you just call page factory init elements. So going back to the route search page, you can see here the page factory object allows you to enter these annotations, find by, in this case we find by ID, the address. And I'll just go ahead and bring up another browser and we'll walk through how I got these fields. So opening up the route search page, you can see it has the information search for address, and it'll bring up the map here in a second. All right, so what I do to find these different fields, I want to clear this out. To find these fields, I right-click on the field, so the address bar I want to inspect. That comes up here in my Chrome Developer Tools, right? And I can look here. You see it's an input tag, class, painted, and it has this ID of address. So I can check that out by, I can actually go here to, in my Chrome DevTools, I can hit Control F, and I can do pound address. So this pound or hash mark indicates that it's an ID tag, and you can see it finds only one element. That's really good. I also have this XPath checker, so I can do things like I can check XPath or CSS. So I search for address, and then you can see it highlights the address field here. Going back to my source code, I then say find by ID, and then indicate address. Let's look at something a little more complex. the search button, right? So this search button here that we highlight, I'll again right-click, inspect on here. And you can see it, it has this button type equals submit. Now, in my search, if I hit Control F here, I can type input, and there's 117 input elements. And even if I do input type equals search, or type equals submit, I should say, I still have 8 different submit buttons on this page. So this isn't going to work. What I'm going to do is I'm going to search for a parent element and find that parent element. So let's see what I used. So I'm looking for an element with ID of form search, and then I'm looking for the submit button. So if I go here and I type form search, well, that's this whole form, the search button and the input and these other tags here. So I find it under form search, and then I find button. Well, there's 2 buttons. There's the search button, and then there's this little X to clear the field. So you can see that. So I need to be more specific, and I want to do type equals submit. Now I have a CSS selector. I have one element that's highlighted here, button search. I can go to my XPath CSS selector. I can even, here in CSS, and it highlights that red. So I know I've got the right element. I've only got one match. That's good. So I put that in here. Now, the next thing that happens is I go ahead and click the search button. I'm doing this manually. It says processing for a while. And then I have to wait for it to show up with the list. Well, actually, I didn't want to do that list. I wanted to bring up the city-state. It has it saved. So I type Orange, California, and I have this modal pop-up, which doesn't appear right away, and then it has these multiple fields. What I want to do is I want to select these different fields, one or more of these fields, click Continue. I'll bring up my developer tools. And you can see here, well, it's still finding everything. It's, never mind. I'll go back to the code. What I want to do is I want to find those elements. So search again. And I won't be able to find the elements until the modal pops up. So I'll have to wait for that modal dialog to appear. And so you can see here, what I want to do is I want to inspect, what is this whole element? Okay, so it says modal header 2. I actually want to go all the way up to modal box. So this element modal box is what I want, and I want to search by ID. And I find the modal box. You can see that highlighted, the whole modal box when I get that. So I'll need to wait for that to appear. And you can see in my code that I have find element, sorry, I'm getting lost here, modal box, and then it's zip codes list, and then LI. I could probably just go with zip codes list. What was that? Oh, I need to get the capitalization right. Okay, so I have my zip codes list. Now what this is this is an unordered list, and you can see it has each element, and each one selects from here. So in my function, I'm getting all elements. So what I do is, it's a list of web elements in zip code list. So find anything in the zip codes list that matches LI, this LI element. So any of these individual zip codes. Once we do that, I create a function here that says select zip code from the list, and it takes just a number, 1, 2, 3, 4, or whatever. And you can see in my test, I'm actually selecting 0. I could select 1, 2, 3, or 4, 5 or 6, right? 0 is the first element in this array. That's the way programming languages count. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. 0 is the first, 1 is the second. It's a little confusing, but you get used to it. All right, so back to my route search page. I've got this select zip code from list, which then calls the zip code list up here. It finds that list of elements. It gets, in this case, the first one from that list and clicks on that element. And then what we'll do next is we'll wait for the map. And now we're going to wait until it's visible, and then we're going to wait until it's invisible. That's, if you see that happening, I click here on an element, and then I click continue. I'm waiting for processing to show up, and then I'm waiting for the processing to disappear, and I know it right. And I make an extra check. I wait for the show table to happen. Again, I can inspect for the show table element, but you'll probably get a good idea of what I've got going on. So I've got all these different elements, right? The address search field, the search button that I click. Then I wait for that list to come up, and I select one or more elements in that list. And then I click select zip code on that. That's the continue button on that modal dialog. And then I wait for that progress overlay, that essentially waiting for the map to load. And then the next thing I do is I'm going to look for the routes table. So I click show table, and I see select all routes, and it has just this one route. I can select one individual route, or I can select all. What I'm just doing in this example is I'm clicking select all in this totals area. And then lastly, I get the elements from the order summary, the individual routes selected. So I get this element, I get this element, I get this element, the total delivery addresses, and the approximate cost. And I get these the same way. I inspect for the element, and I find it. And in this case, let's see. So each of these order summary element routes, I'm again looking for something more general, the info panel. And I'll show you again how I search for that. Info panel, dash panel maybe. There we go. All right, so this is actually showing only the info panel. I'll walk through it again. Never mind. You get the general idea. So I look for each of these elements, the routes, the drop-offs, and these are these locators for each element, and then the approximate cost. And then one thing else I do is I wait for this little clear button to appear, and I don't want to click clear, I just want to wait for it to appear, because if I delete these out and I search, it's not going to save them. Okay, here, now I search that. Now there's no clear button, and all of these things are zeroed out. So that means I haven't selected anything. Once I've selected one, the clear button appears, and I can click continue button safely. And then when I click continue button, it takes me to the sign-in page. So that's what I'm doing. Let's go ahead and look at my test in whole. So here we go. Route search, open the page, get the title just for a sanity check. I send the keys. I type Orange, California in the search field. I click the search button. I select a zip code, in this case, the 0, the first from that zip code list. And then I close that modal button by clicking continue. And then I wait for the map to load. And then I select from that table, search all routes. And then I get the order summary. That's all the details, the drop-offs, and the approximate cost and all that. I convert that to JSON for our API. That's the syntax that's sent between web servers and clients. And then finally, I click on that continue button. And that's the end of this test. So let's go ahead, and I'm just going to click run this test, and we'll watch it happen right in front of us. It opens the page, the route search page. It'll then enter the city and state, Orange, California. Now that the map's loaded, it's processing. It selects a zip code. It's processing again. We're waiting for that processing to disappear. Now we've got the show table. We click that button, and then we select the route, and we're done. I think I did something wrong here. Nope, okay. And then you can see, lastly, as our output, we have the title that we're printing here, USPS.com, every door, direct mail. And then we have this JSON payload that our API will send that includes the routes, one route, one drop-off, 756 delivery addresses, and an approximate cost of $145.15. And then finally, our test passes. So this is kind of a stage one of how to automate using the USPS Every Door Direct Mail, and I'll go into more detail later. That's all for now.